Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast on pennstate.rivals.com. I'm your host, Richie Schneider, joined as always on a weekly basis by our co-host. I know I say this every time, but we need to get like a certified title for you.
Dylan put on a business card.
Yeah, exactly. Get a nice business card for you. People use business cards anymore? I don't even think so.
I've seen them on your phone. You can pay like $1,000 to have this business card on your phone, and you can just get a QR code with it. But yeah,
I mean, maybe, I guess, but still, it doesn't seem worth the $1,000. But besides the point, we are back talking some Penn State football recruiting specifically to start off. Penn State landed a 4-star Rivals 250 kid in Greater Latrobe High School linebacker Alex Tatsch. Just tell me a little bit about him, and were you surprised by this one?
I was not surprised. I mean, you look at his FutureCast. We FutureCasted him back in mid-November, shortly after, I believe, a visit to Penn State for the Michigan game. Though I have to give a shout out to our, I believe, Cincinnati writer, Jason Stamm, who FutureCasted Tash even a couple of days prior to us on November 2nd, which I believe is right about the time that Tash received his offer from Penn State. So maybe he just maybe he talked to Tash that day and got the feeling that Penn State was going to be the school to beat, or maybe he knew that there was a likelihood that if he received an offer from the Nittany Lions, it would be a game changer. And that would have been the correct hunch, I would say, because Tash emerged over the fall as an elite player within the state of Pennsylvania. And once Penn State offered, it did feel like a matter of time before he committed. He got on campus this month for the first junior day, had a great visit, found his way back to campus this weekend, and committed this weekend to the Nittany Lions. And I will say I'm surprised a little bit that it came maybe this weekend. He wasn't originally expected to be on campus. And plus, he had just received an offer from Notre Dame this week, which I wouldn't call it a game changer offer, but it was one of those offers that I thought there was a chance that this is a school that could perhaps get him at least to visit, and that could delay a decision. But with the dead period coming up, and I guess his next chance to visit schools is sometime next month. I forget when the next period opens up, but I guess he wanted to get this thing over and done with here, and that's what he did on this. He did this weekend on his trip to Penn State. It's a solid pickup, obviously a solid pickup for the Nittany Lions, number 220 in the nation, number 5 in the state, number 18 outside linebacker. Though I do think he probably is more of a Mike linebacker for the Nittany Lions in the future. But very good pickup for Penn State here, and that's now looking at it. 1, 2, 3 of the top 15 kids in the state of Pennsylvania so far committed to Penn State, with plenty of guys out there still. Anthony Saka, Drew Coleman, Maxwell Roy, Michael Carroll, Deshaun Burnett, Matt Zollers, all guys that are in the top 10 that Penn State is still in the thick of it for.
Now, let me ask you this about Alex Tatsch. I know we have him at 220 overall. There's kind of a little rankings discrepancy when it comes to the other services compared to where we have them, where they have them. He has the offer list of a 250 kid. He's got all the Power Fives, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Pitt, South Carolina, USC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think he's a solidified top 250 kid, or does he need to do a little more in your eyes?
I would say, I think having him in where he is probably about right, but I think you could make the argument that he probably could do a little bit more, flash a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It's tough because he's not playing the most elite talent at Greater Latrobe, and when you're not facing the best athletes and you're the best athlete on the field, you're going to look like you're a lot better athlete than you probably truly are. But I think he's. I think anywhere between 220 and maybe if you're I know we don't rank beyond 250, but I think you could place him anywhere between like 220 and probably like 320. And I don't think I'd have much of an argument with that. I think he's legit, definitely a top 350-ish player. And I think you could easily make the argument he's a top 250 player like we have him. I definitely think he's a top 5-7 prospect in the state.
Yeah, I know you said Greater Latrobe doesn't play a great schedule. Do you think that this is kind of like a Lamont Payne type thing where it's just like great prospect, just bad competition?
Uh, Perhaps to a degree, though I do think I like Cash a little bit more than I like uh, Payne coming out of high school.
Okay. Awesome. Just final thoughts on Tatch. He's an athlete, obviously a true athlete. Basketball player, track and field guy. Does the long jump, runs a 100-meter track for his high school program. Plays running back, linebacker, and dual threat quarterback, or wildcat quarterback, whatever you want to call it. 4 interceptions, 3 fumbles last year. That's pretty good numbers. And he just looks like a really smart linebacker too. He's got the instincts and really runs through traffic pretty well, can dodge traffic at least, and get into that backfield of opposing teams. But yeah, I mean, anything else you got for him?
No, I really like. I think he's a smart football player. You see that in the film. He knows how to be aggressive, but he also knows how to play smart. He reads and reacts to the ball, honestly, moving beautifully. He never seems to lose it. He's really good at finding the indicators of what's coming. Just a very smart football player. Somebody you're going to be able to put in the middle of your defense at the Michael linebacker spot, and you can trust him to be out there and be the leader of a defense. I do think there's a chance he has the athleticism that maybe if you want to, shift him out to one of the outside linebacker spots, not perhaps, on a regular basis, but here and there, I think he has the athleticism, definitely that you can, have him blitz here and there from the outside as well and be successful. So, I think he's a really solid pickup, really good get for the Nittany Lions. Obviously has some things to work on, but there's enough there to a strong enough foundation to start with that once he gets to campus, gets to work with, Tom Allen and the rest of the defense. I think he's going to be able to develop into a really nice player for Penn State.
Okay, awesome. So moving on a little bit, I know we submitted a new FutureCast recently to Deshaun Burnett, another 4-star linebacker out of Pennsylvania, out of a similar area and playing for Imani Christian Academy in Pittsburgh. Do we expect this one to kind of go down pretty soon?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance this one we see in the quite near future. I'm not sure if it'll be this week, but sometime in the next couple weeks here, I think there's a good chance that we see Deshaun Burnett join the fold. This one kind of, emerged only over the last 24, 48 hours as a legitimate possibility. Burnett, has always been one of the higher ranked prospects in the state of Pennsylvania. He kind of similar to Tash, where he probably needs to show a little bit more going forward to remain where he is in the rankings. But I think from an athletic standpoint, Deshaun Burnett's a really good athlete. I think he has some really nice length as well. We have him listed as an outside linebacker, I believe, right now. But I think at the next level, he's probably has his hand in the dirt as a defensive end. Burnett, that one has emerged quite recently. We submitted that FutureCast yesterday, myself and Marty. Feel good about that one happening here.
Now moving on a little bit actually, you know what? Not even moving on yet. I want to dabble in this one.
Sure.
So if they get Tatch, or they have Tatch, if they get Tatch and Burnett, are like they almost done with linebackers number 1? And should there be a little bit concerned because one's a solid linebacker, one's potentially a defensive end when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I do not think they would be necessarily done with linebacker because I think guys like Kamar Archie and guys like Anthony Saka are guys you take, you find the spot for them. I do wonder, Saka is we got him at 6'4". I'm not sure if what his legit measurables are at this point in time, but
Mm-hmm.
if that 6'4" is accurate, if he adds another inch, which is certainly possible, I mean, I think there's a good chance he also ends up with his hand in the dirt at the next level. Just you don't see a ton of linebackers, his size, especially if they have the explosion, they can move down to the defensive line. So I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up as a defensive lineman himself, but I think you take a guy like Anthony Saka. I think you take guys like Kamar Archie.
Yeah.
Now,
Go on.
I will say that I do think Burnett is a little bit more interesting than Tash. Tash was a guy that was among their top prospects overall, one of those guys that they absolutely wanted to have in this class. But Burnett, this is a guy who has been one of the top ranked players in Pennsylvania for a while. But from our perspective, the communication between the two sides seemed to have dipped over the last few months, leading up into the last couple of days here. So it seemed like one side or the other wasn't really shown as much interest lately, but all of a sudden, we're receiving indications from sources that this is a legitimate possibility that Burnett can join the class here in the near future. So Burnett's a little bit more interesting. I do wonder what kind of has gone into that decision on both sides, because from Burnett's perspective, it's been really quiet. This didn't seem to be coming. But on Penn State's side, like I said, the communication seemed to have been quiet. Let me look at his profile, because I'm not even sure.
He hasn't made any visits this spring to anywhere, it seems like.
He was last on campus in September. So it's been a while since he's been on campus, too. Didn't come up for any of the junior days either.
Which is always interesting. They did send a couple coaches. I think Franklin was there as well, to his high school recently, though, I believe.
They did. They sent him there. They sent Franklin, and I believe Terry Smith was there as well. Tom Allen might have joined that trip, but they visited Monty Christian last week, which maybe something changed on that visit, that trip there.
Yeah, Tom Allen was there on a different day. Tom Allen and Terry Smith were there on the 13th, and then Franklin and Terry Smith when is this? February 1st. So definitely interesting.
And this is something I just really thought about, and that could be what changed in the last few weeks. Here is maybe Manny Diaz, didn't like Burnett as much recently. And I will say Burnett's junior tape is not the prettiest junior tape. It's got some wrinkles that he's going to have to really work out heading into next year. I think there's part of his tape is at defensive end, and it didn't look all that great. But again, I think you look at him from the athletic point of view, and what size do we have him at? 6'3", 219. That's some decent size there. I think you look at it from a size, length, and athleticism point of view, and it's an understandable take from the Nittany Lions if he does commit. But perhaps Tom Allen just likes Deshaun Burnett a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I'm kind of curious, because we were talking about it off pod, but do you think it's going to be like a totally different defense this year between Tom Allen's and Manny Diaz last year's? Manny Diaz is known as a super aggressive coordinator. And going back to Tom Allen's coordinator days, he wasn't as aggressive. He was more just play my style. I trust my style. I trust my guys.
Yeah, I definitely think I think it's impossible to be more aggressive than Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
But I do think they'll remain aggressive. Maybe they'll be, because they've always had an aggressive defense under James Franklin. So I do think they'll be aggressive, but I think it'll probably be closer to what we saw out of the Brent Pry era defenses in terms of aggression than the Manny Diaz. But Brent Pry put together some really damn good defenses at Penn State too. Now you can argue that Manny Diaz's defense at Penn State were two of the best defenses this program has had ever, especially this past year. That was a generational level defense. But I think overall Tom Allen is going to have success as Penn State's DC, because I know the numbers weren't pretty at other stops if you look, but you look at also the level of talent that he was working with, and his defense has always showed an improvement from when he got there to when he left as well. Now he has one of the most talented defenses in the country to work with on a daily basis. I think the results are going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that he definitely didn't have at Indiana, and made them look good over a couple past, not last year, but the past couple years.
He developed 2 Indiana linebackers into All-Americans.
Yeah, that is true. So, moving on a little bit, junior day, final junior day was this past weekend, February 3rd. They had a pretty good visitor list. Anyone, I guess actually we should start with the highlight of the list. Matt Zollers, quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, Zollers back on campus, which is big because he just came off, a bunch of visits to South Florida, Georgia, and Missouri. 5 schools in the last 2 weeks. And this recruitment is heating up, and it's going to be ending here in the next month or so. His goal is to commit in March or April sometime after taking a bunch of spring visits. Penn State, I feel, is in a solid spot for him, but entering January, I would have told you that Penn State was the team to beat, and I felt like they would begin his commitment probably sometime in January or February. But then, he's continued to blow up on the recruiting trail, and those Georgia, Florida, and Missouri offers are game changers. No offense to South Florida, I don't think he's going to South Florida.
Yeah, no.
But who's the head coach down there now? It's
Alex Grinch, I think.
I think that sounds right.
Former Ohio State DC, I believe.
Alex Golesh. Grinch is at Wisconsin.
Somewhere.
That's
what it is. Yes,
Wisconsin. Alex Golesh, the former Tennessee offense coordinator, is down there now. He really liked his trip to Missouri, which I found interesting. But Missouri's coming off a really good season, and they developed Brady Cook into a pretty good quarterback. But I'm going to be watching Georgia and Florida. I think I mentioned on this podcast last week that Georgia, you look at who they have offers out to, it's pretty clear that it's Zollers, Ohio native Ryan Montgomery, and current USC commit Julian Lewis as the top 3 quarterbacks on the board for UGA, and all 3 have visited over the last month. So we'll see how that develops, and depending on how that develops, could depend on what happens with Zollers really going forward. If Julian Lewis decides to stay committed to USC and Georgia feels that they're not going to be able to flip him, they're going to turn their attention more to Montgomery and Zollers going forward, I believe.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, and it could be a huge, huge, huge win for Penn State if they can pull this off. To land Zollers over Georgia, and who else did he visit? Georgia, somewhere else. I can't think right now.
Zollers?
Yeah, I knew you just said it, but I just
Florida, Georgia, and Missouri.
Florida, Georgia, and Missouri, and now that's where it gets interesting because didn't what's his name just visit Florida too? Montgomery.
Yeah, Montgomery has also visited Florida recently. He's visited South Carolina recently, and Georgia.
And yes, I did notice that our South Carolina publisher actually just put in a FutureCast for him to land at South Carolina, so that could throw a little wrench into things for Zollers and Penn State because now Georgia still needs a quarterback. Yeah,
and if Montgomery commits to South Carolina, Georgia would probably extend a couple more offers, but I think they'd go full court press on there on Zollers probably as well.
Now, any other notable tidbits, I guess, from Junior Day this weekend? I know you had an article with the Florida lineman.
Yeah, Zaire Addison. He appeared to really enjoy his visit. He wants to visit again, it sounds like, here in the upcoming months.
Nice.
Pulling it up here. He got to sit down with Phil Trautwein for a while and watch tape, and he really enjoyed that as well. He said that Phil Trautwein compared him to former Nittany Lion and current Green Bay Packer Rasheed Walker, as well as Olu Fashanu, obviously, as offensive lineman that he reminded him as. Addison a little bit smaller than Fashan, who's 6'5", 275. But yeah, it seems like Addison is becoming a potential name to watch here. Really highly regarded offensive lineman, so there will be plenty of competition there. And if other SEC schools are involved, then that could certainly drive up the price there. And then
it must be an easy sell when you have starting left tackle of the Packers. You have the maybe potential number one offensive tackle getting drafted this year, so easy sell, right?
Right. And then they did offer 3 prospects: Virginia offensive lineman Carter Scruggs, who I have an article on today. 2026 defensive end Isaiah Harris out of Michigan. He really likes Penn State. He's been here a couple times. Now up to 5 offers with Louisville, Boston College, and Central Michigan. Also offering and Bowling Green. I wrote Boston College. I meant Bowling Green.
You're fine. Is that all we got for Junior Day? There's not really a lot that really happened this week. I know I put an article up with Halim Muhammad. He sounds like he really liked Penn State. I just don't know where he falls on that board, but he's defensive tackle. He's massive. He's a Doylestown, PA native.
They've been taking those raw prospects once a cycle or so as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if he is a take on that board. With Carter Scruggs, go back there quickly. James Franklin told him he's going to be a priority going forward. Now, I think coaches have a tendency to tell a lot of players that they're going to be priorities going forward, but he's definitely a guy who has high interest in Penn State going forward. And I think, depending how the offensive line board fills in over the next couple of weeks and months, definitely a guy I could see taking an official visit to Penn State in the future. And honestly, same with Zaire Addison. Wouldn't be shocked if he takes a official visit later this year.
I do want to clarify because I asked this last week and I made it, we made it known. Scruggs is not related to Drew Scruggs. Does not look like him at all.
Not related to Drew Scruggs.
Yeah, no relation whatsoever. So, other than that, I think that's really it for recruiting. It's going to be a dead period coming up. Signing day this week. We don't expect anyone to sign for Penn State.
That would be a big surprise.
There's no commitments. Yeah. I would assume they probably announce a couple run-ons, aka preferred walk-ons. That's what they call them for those of you that don't know.
Yeah, they've had some on campus over the last few weeks. So
yeah, I really don't see many reasons to keep this signing day even a thing. To be honest with you,
beyond tradition, not really.
Yeah, no.
Remember when it was really big? Not even that long ago, and like even ESPN would have a full day of just non-stop commitments on TV.
Yeah, everyone commits in a year early now, so it doesn't matter. So they're ranked 16 in the team rankings right now. In the transfer rankings, in the comprehensive rankings, which is transfer and high school, they're ranked 17. So I don't really expect either of those to change too much. Maybe we could see the transfer one change a little bit with spring portal window and all that, but sounds like this is it.
Yeah, and I would say, obviously not the flashiest class in terms of overall ranking, but I think it's a really good class. It's a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Complementary class to the last few classes they've had. It seems like the 2025 class could be trending towards once again being a complementary class. But I'm not too surprised by that, because if you look at the 2026 cycle, that's a big one, especially in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
elite talent up and down. All throughout Pennsylvania, east, west, north, south. Throughout Pennsylvania, there's elite talent in that 2026 class. Messiah Minkins, obviously, who is a huge get. I think actually
we had a little piece on it this morning. Adam Gorney posted something. USC's trying to flip him.
Yeah, USC and Michigan, and he says there will be visits he takes, but Gorney seems confident that Penn State is going to be able to hold on to that commitment, and that's not surprising.
Yeah, ideally, you don't want to take visits, and I know Franklin is very anti
visiting elsewhere once you're committed.
Yeah.
But this is a case of a kid that he's 22 in the country. That's a future 5-star right there. And I'm surprised he's not right now. But I think he really gets it when it's all said and done. You can just let that kid do whatever he wants, honestly. As long as he's staying committed, go ahead, take a couple visits. I'll talk to you when you get back.
Also worth noting, people want to know, how is Penn State going to address the wide receiver room, right?
Yeah.
According to Adam Gorney, Penn State is in the mix for 4-star, number 100 player in the country, 2025 wide receiver, Cortez Mills. They're in the top group along with Clemson, Florida State, and Penn State. But right now, Miami and Nebraska are the two programs that have made the biggest impression on Mills so far in his recruitment.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
They're also in the running with 2025 guard Max Buchanan out of Florida. And,
I believe he wants to take a visit, if I read that correctly.
And that's all from Gorney's piece for Penn State. But if you want to know more about those prospects or other prospects, Adam Gorney has a great free article up on the Rivals right now. The recruiting rumor mill, Pylon Los Angeles, brings out the stars. So go check that out. I think beyond that, not really much else.
Let's talk some basketball, because this team, I don't know what the hell happened. I know they weren't the best opponents in Rutgers and Indiana, but they beat them both pretty handily, and in different ways too, which is kind of weird. One they held to 46 points, one they held to 71, but they still ended up winning both games by 14 and 15.
It's one of those things where it's probably not as long as you think, but I'd love to go back later in the day and look to see the last time Penn State men's basketball won back-to-back Big Ten road games by 14-plus points. That's impressive. I know Rutgers and Indiana are not good teams. KenPom has Rutgers over number 100, Indiana at number 99, Penn State, by the way, up to number 93. Up 8 spots from
traction.
Up 8 spots from their ranking on Saturday. But those are impressive wins, all things considered. Ace Baldwin has been absolutely phenomenal over the last couple games, including both of these wins, playing all 40 minutes for 3 straight games now.
It's insane.
And they're doing it without Kanye Clary.
Yeah. If you told me they'd be doing this without Kanye Clary, I'd probably call you. If you told me 2 weeks ago, or let's say Tuesday night, they're going to beat Rutgers by 14, or 15, they're going to beat Indiana by 15 or 16, whatever it was. Whatever the numbers were, 15 and 14. And without Kanye Clary, I'd probably call you a liar. There's just no way that was going to happen, and it's happening.
But the schedule now just only gets tougher. It's going to be this is going to, you can say, duh, but this is going to be the toughest stretch by far for Penn State this season. You look at their remaining games, and only one of their remaining games is a non-quad 1 game, and that's a home game against Indiana.
That Maryland as well.
Oh, yeah.
And
Minnesota.
Iowa and Minnesota are Q2s. Maryland and Indiana are Q3s. The rest of the other 5 are Q1s.
Okay. So forget what I said. But still, you look at it. I'm looking at the KenPom rankings here. Out of those, how many games left? 10 games? 11 games?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.
9 games left. All but 3 are top 50 teams in the country. So that's tough.
I just sent you the link over to use the quad rankings. It's a lot easier on this website. Bracketologist.com if you guys are bored and want to just go peek into that. Has all the spreads from the games too, which is interesting to me. But home against Iowa, there's a legitimate shot they could pull this one off, I feel like, on Thursday. I don't think it's insane.
It won't be easy, but I think the way they've been playing, if they continue to play this well basketball, absolutely they can find a way to win this one.
Yeah. This Iowa team also just recently lost to Indiana last week, so it's not unheard of. And then more than likely, I would assume Kanye Clary's back based on the fact that it's been well over a week now.
Yeah. And I also mentioned this.
2 weeks.
This Iowa team overall has just not been playing strong basketball of late. 2-3 in their last 5 games now. One of those losses was to Purdue, but they also lost to Maryland. So losses to Maryland and Indiana, and their one win was over a very bad Michigan team. Other one, a 2-point win over Ohio State, which is obviously a quality team, but not exactly a world beater team either.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I would not be shocked if we were talking in a podcast on Friday or Saturday and saying, hey, this Penn State team's now 3-0 in their last 3. I think home crowd is going to play a big advantage there. I'm intrigued to see how many people end up showing up to Bryce Jordan on Thursday night, but I think they have a very, very good shot of winning this one.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if you go, let me go back to the Penn State schedule here. You win that. Northwestern is a team that, you gave a really good game to earlier this year too. And Northwestern also just lost to Minnesota. And you're showing that you can play quality basketball on the road as well, which perhaps for Penn State is coming at the best of times. Because going forward, you have 4 road games remaining, and they're all beatable programs. Northwestern, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, those are all teams you can go on the road and face and have a good chance to win. Based off the way you just playing. It's not like you're having to travel to Purdue and play at Mackey. It's not like you have to travel to Wisconsin and play at what is
I don't even know what it's called. It's some
Kohl
center.
The Kohl
There
Center.
you go.
It's not like you have to go there or to back to Breslin at Michigan State. You're going to places where you can win a game. Iowa is probably the toughest remaining road game.
Yes, I would probably say that's. Yeah, I'm looking now. Yeah, no, that's definitely the toughest one. So we'll see what they can do on Thursday. Iowa and Nebraska's tough too.
Nebraska's very good at home this year.
Hawkeye's just dangerous.
I'm looking at Nebraska's home schedule this year. They've lost 1 home game this year, and that was to Creighton.
That's a tough one.
But... So tough in how they've been playing at home, but it's not like Nebraska is it's not top 25 team. They may make the tournament.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's all I really got. Super Bowl this weekend. Winter workout started today. I have an article on that very shortly, but just to go through the list real quick. Prbula at quarterback, Cameron Wallace running back, Liam Clifford wide receiver, tight end Joey Schlaffer. Schlaffer, I said that wrong. Offensive line, I can't pronounce shit. Offensive line, Nick Dawkins, center. Defensive line was defensive end Zariah Fisher. Linebackers, Tyra Elston. Cornerback, Cam Miller, who I think is going to have a big year. Safety, Jalen Reed. And special teams was punter Riley Thompson. Day 1 of workouts, I'm expecting... I don't know what to expect. It was day 1.
Yeah, and, day 1 winter workouts, it's just, getting back into that routine, and before you know it, spring football will be here. Spring football will be over, and then we'll be into the summer official visit season. Then official visit season's over. Get a little bit of a breather, and then before you know it, it's back into the fall camp, and football will be back before we know it. I'll tell you that much. Now, not Penn State related, but Pennsylvania related, recruiting trail related here. Some big news out of Pittsburgh today. Defensive line coach Charlie Partridge is leaving the Panthers to take a job with the Indianapolis Colts. That's a big one. I would say, not that Penn State's lost a ton of recruiting battles to Pittsburgh, but that's Charlie Partridge is a very good defensive line coach and very good recruiter, and that's a big loss for Pittsburgh, and certainly helps Penn State on their recruiting trail when recruiting guys, defensive linemen instead. And
it should be noted that Nick Saban tried to steal him not too long ago.
Yeah,
and they were able to keep him at Pitt. A couple NFL teams called; they were able to keep him at Pitt. This go around, ain't happening. But that's a big loss for Pittsburgh. Also, another Penn State
not Penn State related type thing. Sounds like it's about to happen any moment now. Bill O'Brien, former head coach, will be the new head coach of Boston College. More than likely within, I don't even know, very soon. But it's I guess that's an interesting move for him. I don't know if it's a good move or not, because like I think I've mentioned it before. Like Jeff Hafley, like got what 7-8 wins there every year, and it's like what, whatever. Unless this is like your end all be all and you want to stay there forever. I don't like this move personally. I think you had a better shot of getting a better job next year if you had a successful year at Ohio State.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice, but I think it's also to a degree that with the special needs that his son has, perhaps he spent a lot of time in the New England area. I believe there's a lot of good children's hospitals and stuff up in the New England area. I'm not sure what Columbus has, but perhaps it's from a bigger family perspective. Perhaps he just thinks, now he doesn't have to move his family out of the New England area. He can keep them in the New England area, keep them with the doctors that he's, been with most of his life, because that was a big thing I know for him when it came to the Houston job as well, was that Houston has a bunch of really good children's hospitals, and obviously when he was at Penn State has great children's hospitals as well.
Yeah,
and don't mind my wife's Pooh Bear Squishmallow sticking out.
No, if you saw my girlfriend's collection, it's kind of insane.
It's the things we do for love.
Yep, exactly. It's right around the corner, right? Valentine's Day next week.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing else really going on. Kind of just waiting for this basketball game. Wrestling, we'll have more with Joey later this week. We're gonna try to do it a little earlier this week to preview the big Iowa match on Friday.
Yeah, that'd be big.
It's an international. I should say international state college wise. Yeah. It's Iowa Hate Week.
It's Iowa Hate. Oh, I froze. Yeah, and then but I mean, Penn State's been rolling, but how about that shocker in Ann Arbor over the weekend with Michigan beating Iowa 24-11? That was
it kind of gives this one a little less flair, I guess, because hey, you can't even beat those guys. That's a problem.
Yeah, so that should be another fun one, and a lot to go over here in the next couple days here, and recruiting news is going to probably die down a little bit for a week or so, but I'm sure as we head closer to November, it's going to pick right back up.
Yep. I think guys will start scheduling official visits within the next week. I talked to Rowan Byrne today. Told me he's going to schedule his within the next week specifically.
Yeah. And I think we already reported
Penn State target.
I think we reported Adam Shovelin last week.
Correct. Yes, he'll be there. A couple guys have ex-nayed Penn State from their top list. That's not really on their part, more so on Penn State's part. But yeah, Cameron Miller, I know, had a top 5 come out. Renick Durilis had a top 5 and had Penn State actually, but I don't expect him to go to Penn State. That's Rutgers or Tennessee for that one, but that's more so Penn State having higher targets still on the board, which makes sense. But yeah, that's really it for me and Dylan. I'm not even going to sign off yet, actually. Check out our podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating. It takes 10 seconds. It's easy. It's quick. It helps us grow the pod. Also, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. It's free. Again, it's the little button right here. It's a little click. That's all you have to do. And you also get notifications via email anytime we have a new podcaster go live. So that's always helpful. But yeah, for me and Dylan, you could check us out on happyvalleyinsider.com or at Penn State Rivals on social media. And Dylan has one more thing before I sign off.
Yeah, Penn State football just posted a back to work video, and I will say, officially seeing Julian Fleming in a Penn State shirt, makes me just think about that recruitment and how everything has gone down over the last few years. Still kind of weird to see Julian Fleming as a Nittany Lion. Almost, I think the correct term would almost be like a fever dream.
Yep.
I'm sure that would get people excited to see that as well. I don't think I saw any of Richie at that, but same thing would count with Richie.
Awesome. One more thing, if you guys have any questions ever whatsoever, just shoot them in the comments below. Tweet at us on Twitter, DM us on Twitter, and we're going to try to answer all your questions going forward. I know we have a couple on the message board that we're still trying to put together for a podcast, but yeah, for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the PSU 365 podcast. Signing off.